at that moment, I realized, with all the pain I'm feeling, doing this and harming myself with this poison is really emotionally abusive. And I started looking at myself like, holy fuck, I'm turning into something that is a monster, an abomination of who I thought I was. And it was at that moment that I saw the pain in her eyes that I said, okay, enough's enough, man.
Holics.com and Season of Mist are proud to present High Notes, a podcast about addiction and recovery in the music industry. I'm your host, James Shotwell. My guest this episode is Roger LeBlanc. Roger is the guitar player for Numenorean, a Canadian metal band whose latest release, Adore, is available now through Season of Mist. Like many of our guests, Roger's journey with sobriety came after loved ones made him aware of the fact that he was no longer in control of his addiction. The journey through sobriety, which we detail at length here, has not been easy for Roger. In fact, it's still very difficult for him to talk about, but you'll find that it has changed his life in radical ways. Something I really love about this conversation, which you'll hear soon, is that Roger is offering a perspective on what it's like to be a sober musician in a genre of music that isn't often associated with sobriety, and how the rest of the community reacts to that decision. But when we connect over the phone from his home in Canada, the first thing Roger tells me is how long he's been sober.
2 years, 2.5 years now. Yeah, it was June 9th was the bad day, I like to call it. And June 10th was cold turkey. Yeah, I was addicted to alcohol. I'm still, like Burt McCracken said, I'm California sober. So I do take cannabis. I do use it to manage my bipolar, because I have bipolar as well. But yeah, it's been 2.5 years. It's pretty crazy to think that far back. It does seem like a lifetime ago. You're a different person. You know what I mean? Like that's the one thing with addiction is it completely changes everything. Like it changes your desires in life or lack thereof, and you kind of really start fresh. And that's really scary. You have to learn how to handle trauma again. You have to, in a healthy way. You have to learn how to interact with people. You have to learn how to create. And I think that's one of the major contributing factors to people not getting the help they need is that fear of, oh my God, if I don't have this, how am I going to create? How am I going to get on stage in front of thousands of people and not have that crutch, not have that sense of numb that allows you to. Performing is such a fucking weird. Can I swear? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yes.
It's performing arts is such a fucking weird profession. I feel like that's why there's so much mental health issues more so in performing arts, because there's a lot of sensitivity. There's a lot of really sensitive people. And I think you kind of have to be to really delve into, the really dark corners of the human condition and live in that, and play that every night and relive that every night. And that's without, and I do believe that's why a lot of people turn to it, because it helps you cope, especially when you are dealing with that trauma, every night. I don't understand why people just refuse to talk about it. And addiction all boils down to mental health, in my opinion. And I mean, there's other things at play, being, hereditary, things of that nature. But I mean, then you can start hopping into things of, intergenerational trauma. It's actually been scientifically proven that through even researching indigenous people who, went through a fucking horrible time and genocide, that there is something that changes your brain through this intergenerational trauma. And I feel like that's what happens too with addiction. Is actually there's I remember there's an interview, and I'll probably butcher this, but Patrick Stewart, he was talking about intergenerational trauma and how he himself is a victim of World War II, because his dad went through it and got trauma and became an alcoholic. And through that, there was abuse in the household, and that transfers onto that person. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I feel like we need to talk about it. That's what it all boils down to. Addiction is a nasty, nasty little fucker.
I'm sure many of you caught Roger referring to something that he calls the bad day. June 9th, the day before Roger decided to get sober, is when everything in his life came to a head. So I asked him to take me back to that day, as well as the weeks leading up to it, to give us some insight into what was happening in his life before he decided to make a change.
Leading up to that day, wow, I was kind of a late bloomer. I it's actually a crazy story, and I think when you become sober, you start analyzing that, right? You start looking back and you start going, where did this go wrong? When did this start to get out of hand? And I was, alcohol abuse was really bad in my family. My parents did the best they could, but again, the trauma and the alcohol was everywhere. So I abstained. I was so against drugs and alcohol because I'd seen, what it had done, like the anger. I would smell alcohol and it would make me really, really angry. And I had gone to college and I had done all these things totally against alcohol. And it was about 21. Oh, it was about 2021. And I remember I was doing a play, and it was a cast party. No, it was a rehearsal. This is community theater. So if my union's listening, this was before, but they're like, hey, we're doing this party scene. So they brought in some alcohol and everyone was like, well, let's take a shot and loosen ourselves up and go. I said, well, fuck it. I've never done this before. I'm always open to new things. And, it's that classic case of, it's like a bottle with a fish hook in it. That kind of changed everything, because again, being bipolar and so sensitive, I was a fucking weird kid. You know what I mean? Like having a hard time communicating with people, 'cause, I can't trust my emotions. And a lot of people are wary of people with mental health issues. And when I was able to drink, I felt like this is who I am. Holy fuck, I'm awesome. I can go up to people and talk to them and put myself out there. And for a while, that there was the scary part about that. I was actually being rewarded for this behavior. And you go on, you drink with people and they're like, okay, this guy's great. This guy's cool. I'm going to put him as a role in this film, or I'm going to book these guys for a show because they fucking drink and they party and they're great. And I'm going, well, how can this be a bad thing? For the longest time, I felt like I was living in an isolated world where I couldn't connect, like an alien. And all of a sudden, you feel like you get invited to the popular table and you're like, holy fuck, I feel amazing. And then about the last year, it started to get really bad. Like I'd say like 8 beers and a Mickey of Jack Daniels, or even 2.6 of Jack Daniels a night, because I never wanted to go back to who that was, who I was before, because I felt like I was going to lose communication with everyone and lose who I felt was me. I remember, one thing I always identified myself with is hard work and performance. I never let anything get out of the way of my performance. And it was starting to. It started with, I remember we were playing with Deaf Heaven and I was so fucking nervous. And I drink a lot before that show. And that's when it really started, because you start to go, oh, I'm feeling it on stage now. I'm feeling it. The music's coming through me, and the inebriation in my head is tricking me into thinking this helps me feel it more, and in turn helps me put on a better show. And it started getting worse, and worse. And I remember June 9th, we were playing a band show in Banff, which is like a little mountain town near us. And I don't remember it. I don't remember. I think the last thing I remember was going upstairs, loading in, and getting fucking hammered. And that was it. Everything after that was a blur. I remember Byron, who's the other half of Numenorean, he drove me home, got me home. I'm just hearing secondhand what happened. You know, I was throwing bottles, and I was falling all over the place, like even him trying to get me in my house. And I woke up that day. You know, I have an amazing partner. We've been together going on 10 years now. And it was that moment when my partner called me and said, "This is it, you know, you have to do this or we're done." Sorry, it's pretty emotional to talk about. At that moment, I realized, you know, with all the pain I'm feeling, doing this and harming myself with this poison is really emotionally abusive. And I started looking at myself like, holy fuck, I'm turning into something that is a monster, an abomination of who I thought I was. And it was at that moment that I saw the pain in her eyes that I said, okay, enough's enough, man. Like, you don't even have performance anymore. That changed everything. I went cold turkey, man. I said, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. It's this or death at that point, you know. And it took a lot of fucking work, man. It took a lot of work. There's actually my partner Sam's got a picture of me that she took my first day sober. And oh man, when I looked, I don't like looking at that picture, but when I do, oh my God, just like dead, you know, pale, bloated, can't even open my eyes. I remember, man, like the DTs, the delirium tremors. Oh fuck, it was horrible. But I knew I had to, you know. I'd beaten a lot of things in my life up to that point, and alcohol is really bad in my family, like I said, but so is recovery. You know, I've got 2, 3, 4, 5 family members, immediate family members that are recovered alcoholics. So I did have that going for me. You know, I had that resilience in my blood. I don't know how I did it, but without my partner, I know I'd be dead. It's that I'm 100% sure of that. June 9th. Yeah, that was a bad fucking day, man.
It may not sound like it right now, but Roger is incredibly lucky. Many people who struggle with addiction don't realize that they are losing everything and everyone that matters to them until it's far too late. Severed relationships are sometimes impossible to fix. But in Roger's case, someone was there. His partner reached out and said, "Hey, something is not right here. Something is happening to you, and it's causing damage to your relationships, to your passions, to what it is that makes you who you are." And thankfully, Roger heard that, and he took it to heart and dedicated his life to doing something different.
You know, it's so, I always, again, like when you get sober, you start to think about, oh man, so many things. I mean, it's that woke mentality of you start looking around. Best way I can describe it to people is if you're going down a highway, so you're going down a freeway in LA, and it's so fucking busy. Cars are just swinging past you, and you're going with them. You know, everyone on that road's going 150, 160, 170, and all of a sudden your car breaks down, and you're stuck. These cars are still fucking zooming past you, and you can't start your car. You can't get going. You can't get out of your car because you'll get killed. So you're forced to sit here and watch how people are going through their lives, going about their lives, and you're stuck. And you start to realize, what got me here? You know, did I not check my oil? You know, did I not take care of myself? Did I not find the warning signs, the engine light, you know? And you start to go, fuck, it was everywhere. You know, even in being in metal, like alcohol is everything in live music. You're playing at bars, for fuck's sake. So it's It's everywhere. And like you even look at genres like punk, you know, or quote unquote punk. A lot of punk scenes in the city. And you know, you're anti-establishment and capitalism, and all they're all getting fucking drunk. You know, like Pilsner and here Molson Canadian, PBR, they're fucking huge corporation. They're taking advantage of you. They take advantage off of musicians. They take advantage of people with mental illness. And that pissed me off. You know, I think that was another contributing factor being sober is I was like, these people have been playing me. The stereotype of artists, the suffering artist, the romanticism of addiction and played me. It played all of us, you know, and that really fucking pissed me off. That really pissed me off. Yeah, you really start to open your eyes about everything around you. And you know, I was pretty nervous about this meeting just because it's it's you're ripping up old scabs and scars, but the more I see it, it's so important to talk about this because nobody is. Oh man, this could be a whole other subject, but especially in extreme forms of music, like metal, obviously attracts extreme personalities. It obviously attracts extremely sensitive people who are feeling extreme emotions that they can't talk to anybody about. You know, if you go up to your friends who listen to, I don't know, Taylor Swift or something, and go, hey, you know, I feel like killing myself. And those people are like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to talk about that. So you turn to this music. Turn to this music that's so fucking angry, that is sad, that is dealing with things that you're dealing with. And that really attracts those people. And it's a responsibility for people or bands in our genre to create an influence that helps these people. There's so many, and I don't want to name bands, but there's a lot of bands out there, especially in our genre, that romanticize, dare I say, profit off of the romanticization of mental health and suicide. You know, doing music videos where people are committing suicide, putting nooses on your amps or that kind of imagery on stage, cutting yourself, shit of that nature. And it just seems so fucking hypocritical to me that you base your music off of, you know, the human suffering, and then you don't fucking do anything about it. And I find that so highly ignorant because it is so deep rooted in this genre. I feel like there's such insecurity in this extreme form of music because people, again, are just feeling, it's all raw emotion. And that leads to anger, that leads to self-harm, that leads to all these negative things. But us as musicians need to help those people. And it's so comforting. I remember actually when I was getting sober, I really felt alone. Again, and I remember, this was 2 weeks. I was sober 2 weeks. And we had to play this festival, Dark Mofo, in Tasmania. And this was in front of thousands of people. This was my first show sober. So I was fucking terrified. And I remember, aside from one member of my band, everyone from the moment we left was fucking hammered. And that was really hard for me, you know, again, going through those motions, like, am I going to be able to create? Am I going to be able to do all the things I used to put bread on my table? And even, you know, members of your band saying, oh, I wish you'd just have a drink to calm down. I remember one member who's no longer in the band. Remember I said, okay, guys, I need to go to the gym. Can you guys help me find a gym? So I want to go in the morning, get ready for the show. And they were just, you know, inebriated. And I woke up in the morning. They woke up in the afternoon. And I remember this certain band member came up to me and said, well, did you go to the gym? And I said, no, they were closed today because this was a gym attached to the hotel and they're closed. And he said, oh, so you're not as better than us as you think you are. And that's really hard to hear from, someone who is going through writing albums about suffering and they dismiss you like that. It's such a lonely feeling. And I realized that because when they were sleeping in, drunk, hungover, whatever, I went out and I went on this it was really cool. It was this art gallery and it was in this island on the ocean, kind of like Alcatraz. And it was like, James, it was like, I can't even explain. It was like 10 feet underground. It looked like a evil lair from James Bond or something. And they had like all this crazy art. But I remember I said, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck them. I'm going to do this myself. And I got on that boat, got a ticket. I went to this art exhibit. And I remember sitting there and I was so mad. I had my journal. I was writing my journal. Like, fuck these guys. They don't care about me. And I finally realized, like, it's as hard as it is, it's not their fault. Because of that stigma, not only in metal music, where it's very rampant, like I said before, but being a man, you can't talk about it. You can't. This is 2020, 2021, you still can't talk about it.
I really hate to interrupt Roger right now, but I feel it's best to give you a warning. We are about to begin discussing suicide. Roger lost a friend and he's going to tell us what happened and how it affected him. It's incredibly emotional, and if you need to jump ahead a little bit, that's perfectly fine. But if you can sit with this and experience what happened through Roger's eyes and sit with his pain, then please continue listening.
I lost a really close friend lately, and I'm sorry, this is really hard to talk about.
You're doing great, man. I mean, take your time.
Thanks. And it was that, I was talking to his mom, and the last thing he said was, I go down this road and I get shut up. I go down this road and I can't get help. I go down this road, I can't get help. I go down this road, I can't get help. And the last thing he said to his mom was, I know what I can do, but you're not going to like it. And that was the last time she saw him alive. And I just know that, like, if we just fucking talk about it, if we just, like, even my dad attempted suicide because he couldn't talk to his son about it. He couldn't talk to his wife about it because that's old school bullshit mentality that men can't have mental illnesses and that anyone can have mental illnesses, and that's an invisible injury, and that my language, but that we're pussies, which is irrelevant because the pussy is very strong when you think about it. And that we lose so many people, and when you deal with a loss like that, it's always the what ifs. And I just feel like it. Yeah, I didn't even know he was going through this. I didn't even know he was in the hospital for it, because he felt like he was a burden, and he felt like he had to be something else, And I just feel like if that stigma wasn't here, he would be here, And I think that's why this kind of stuff is so important. We made a post yesterday about it, just saying, like, this is bad, and I one in 7 people prior to COVID knew someone who had a mental illness or an invisible injury, and now that's 1 in 2. And we have to stop it now, because this is going to be really bad. Alberta, where I live, is has the highest percentage of mental illness and has the highest percentage of addiction, because it's an old Western town. You know what I mean? The stigma is killing us, and it's going to continue to kill us. But it's so moving to see the comments on the website where people are talking about it, you know, saying, you know, I've been struggling with addiction, and it was your music. And I'm not tooting my own horn or any of that bullshit, but it was your music that got me through it. And I'm going, fuck, this is bigger than us. You know, any musician, any artist, what you do is bigger than who you are. And people watch you and people look up to you. And it's your responsibility, if you are, you know, it's intersectional. My partner taught me this word, intersectional, where you acknowledge your suffering, but you choose not to acknowledge other people's suffering. And I find that, especially in this extreme genre, so hypocritical, because with that, there's again, the stigma, there's homophobia, there's racism, there's so much hatred towards gender bias. And this is like, I would feel in a genre like metal, those people would be embraced even more. People with addictions would be embraced even more. People with mental health issues would be embraced even more, because you would think that these artists in this extreme place of the emotional landscape would be there to help these people. And it's again, I know you don't want me to toot your horn either, but it's programs like this. And I remember when I knew I had a problem. I was trying to find, I remember Googling musicians with mental health illnesses. And the first like few responses were like, Kurt Cobain, Elliott Smith. And it's like, that's not helping me. Like these people all were fucking warriors. It ended a specific way for them. But I found this one YouTube channel. I think it was the U Rock Foundation. And they had, it was Corey Taylor. And I remember him talking about it. And I mean, Slipknot was a huge band when I was growing up, like hugely idolized them. And for someone in a band that big with a fan base like that, for him to come out and talk about that shit, I found so goddamn motivating and respectful. Like, I respect the shit out of Corey Taylor for doing that. Any musician that comes out, because it's hard. Like, I had so much anxiety coming up to this meeting again, like, because you're putting your personal story out there, right? And with that comes, I remember one comment on our post was, "You guys are full of bullshit." Like, who takes the time to comment that hateful rhetoric when people are saying their personal stories about surviving, simply surviving? People with mental illnesses are some of the strongest, most compassionate people you'll ever meet. On tour, I go out the venue and I've talked to so many homeless people, and they are some of the most compassionate, loving people you'll ever meet. And even in California, I remember talking to a guy. It was in Portland. And I remember talking to one individual who was a engineer in the Vietnam War. And oh man, I remember him saying, "I wouldn't be here if I got help." You know, I came back from that war with so many invisible injuries, PTSD, and I couldn't go anywhere. The peace protesters didn't want me. My government didn't want me. Again, this goes back to my friend. All your roads are closed. What the fuck do you do? What do you do? You look towards people who have the same trauma. And that's where you find your strength. You find your strength through people who have gone through the same experience. And it really is, love conquers all. And I think, again, especially in this genre, we have to smash that stigma and perpetuate love and connectivity, because that is really the only way we're going to beat this thing, you know?
Personally, I think Roger is absolutely right. We really need to destigmatize conversations around mental health, suicide, addiction, and many other topics in the world of heavy music. A lot of people associate genres such as metal and hardcore and punk with this tough guy aesthetic that really doesn't hold water. It doesn't do anyone good to pretend like everything's okay when it's not, or to push down the turbulent feelings that are within them so that they can be, I don't know, more socially acceptable. But as I was thinking about metal and its relationship with drinking specifically, I couldn't help thinking about touring bands. When you're just starting out, before you've reached headliner status, filling theaters or arenas, you're often playing in bars. And in addition to getting paid, or sometimes instead of getting paid, you're given a lot of free drinks. You're given drink tickets or the ability to have anything from a certain part of the menu. There's always the option to have alcohol. So when you're trying to be sober, when you're trying to lead a clean life, in a lot of ways, it can feel like you're turning down the only compensation that you're getting for your art.
I mean, we kind of fell into this issue before with Heath Ledger, you know? A lot of people were saying, oh, it was his art that killed him. The Joker role, it fucking killed him. No, it didn't. That dude was a professional, man. He didn't let that shit get to him. It was his addictions, you know? He got his drugs mixed up. All that stuff's coming out where it was, he had demons. But again, they're like, no, he was an artist and he's only good and he only got that Oscar because he died for his art. That's such bullshit. That is such bullshit. And you can say the same thing about Kurt Cobain, who, was a huge idol. Again, because I felt like his music spoke to me. You know, it was like, someone gets this. And that can be so poisonous, you know, like even seeing some of your bands on stage they're like, they have these drinks and they're fucking downing drinks and everyone's like, yeah, fuck yeah, you're so metal. And it's just like, now that I look back at it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, some of these bands are like 45-year-old guys, 50-year-old guys, and they're just up there fucking just mess. They're just a mess. And I'm like, why did I think that was so cool? You know, and all these kids are just like, yeah, that's the way to go. Hey, Numenorean, love you guys. I'm gonna get you guys, I'm gonna bring you guys a bunch of booze and oh man, yeah, like second currency. And I feel like that's the first thing I hear from a lot of people is like, hey, can I buy you a drink? Hey, can I buy you a drink? Hey, can I buy you a drink? I've kind of got, I picked up a really interesting trick to that. And that's just have a shot of Coke, you know, or it's like, yeah, sure, but just buy me a Coke.
Earlier in our conversation, Roger mentioned that his approach to sobriety was to go cold turkey. For anyone that's unfamiliar with that saying, it's referencing an idea where you just stop doing the thing that you're doing. Rather than tapering off or even seeking professional help, some people just put the bottle down and never pick it up again. It's not the easiest way to approach sobriety, and many medical professionals do not recommend it, especially for long-term users. But it's worked for Roger.
I am a stubborn son of a bitch, you know. I'm also, I don't know if people prescribe to this, or subscribe, sorry, I'm Capricorn too. So like Capricorns are known for no bullshit, the work, get it done. The work is the work is the work. Everything else is bullshit. And yeah, I said, I'm going to do this. You know, I looked at it like a battle. I looked at it like I am facing a mountainous Goliath. And I refused to back down. You know, I finally planted my feet and I said, I'm going to fight you or you're going to kill me. But I will not invite you back into my life. Because I know, and I really hope people that listen to this, you really understand that things do get better. It's been 2 years and I don't have cravings anymore. Excuse me, I don't even think about alcohol anymore, to tell you the truth. It's tricky. It's really tricky because they like to say that you have a disease, you're recovering always. And I think those words get associated with weakness. And that can be really dangerous. And it took me a while to wear my fights as a badge of honor. And I find that really helped me. Like, those were my Purple Hearts, you know. I've lived my entire life bipolar with chronic suicidality. Like, I think about suicide every day, you know, not that I want to, it's just a condition I have that is hand in hand with my bipolar. I've beaten OCD when I was a kid. I've beaten alcohol. And I continue now to fight to beat this stigma. And I finally, like, on all my social media, I put that. Those are my first things I say. On my acting resume, I put that on my acting resume because I refuse to be embarrassed about that. And I hope other people aren't either, because no one will understand how hard it is. It is just, it's like the trenches. It's like Passchendaele. It's a vicious battle. And people who come out, even people who don't make it, are some of the strongest people you'll ever meet. I mean, again, you run into stigma of people who, I mean, a majority of it is male, who through toxic masculinity say, oh, you're a little bitch. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. Just drink more fucking water. You know, and those people, if they spent a day, not even, if they spent an hour in these people's shoes, they would crumble like dust. Guaranteed.
No.
And that really helped me. Saying, you know what? I am a warrior. Every day I fight a battle. Every day, just to get out of bed sometimes, that's 3 hours, 4 hours of me doing yoga, meditating, walking, running. And for a long time, I even had a day a couple days ago where I was like, why do I have to put in 4-5 hours a day just to do things that someone can just do automatically? And it still to this day gets a hold of me. But I do have, again, a great support circle, which is, again, highly, highly important. Probably the most important thing you can have when getting sober. Yeah, it's, fuck, man, it's such a complicated issue. And my brain just gets so fired up when we start talking about this, and I start losing track of where I'm going. Thanks for your patience.
As Roger and I continue speaking, we look back at our love of metal and the community around it, but also how it's changed. It used to be that just loving the music was enough, especially if you were a performer. If you were a metal artist, there was an immediate level of respect. But over time, things have changed. For some artists, it's not enough to just be performing metal music. You also have to be tough or strong in another way that the public doesn't necessarily see. For some artists, that may mean bringing an entire gym on tour with them. Or for others, it may be drinking as much as possible and never complaining about feeling sick to your stomach. It's all a little bit silly, as Roger and I talk about here.
I don't know. It's supposed to be, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, here's another thing where I just start going off. I have to choose my words carefully when I start getting into this stuff, just because I am in the industry. There are certain bands, even to this day, that perpetuate that kind of bullshit stigma. I hope I never play with them, because I think we'd have an issue. But it's just scary that those people are out there and that those people have a platform. I think that's the most disturbing, is that there's still people that give these clowns a platform to perpetuate hatred, self-hatred. It just seems so hypocritical, because metal is supposed to be, I mean, metal all came about because it was like, fuck this. I don't want to do this hair metal bullshit, you know? Even with things like black metal. Here's a perfect example. Black metal came out of doing something that no one else was doing. It was anti-death metal. It was anti whatever was happening in the Florida death metal scene. It was against that. Let's use the shittiest mics we can, the shittiest production, anti-establishment. Pretty punk rock when you think about it. So where along the lines did it change to, no, you want to be a fucking metal band? You want to be a black metal band? You have to sing about this. You have to wear this. This is what your merch has to look like. This is what you have to, this is what, again, like, just fit in the mold for us so you don't challenge our morals or our ethics. When did that happen? It boggles my mind. It blows my fucking mind that even now, I would argue that metal is the most elitist, insecure genre. And I might get a lot of flack for this, but it's the most insecure genre out there. And again, a lot of that is extreme personalities, but a lot of that is it fear? Is it, I don't know what it is, but I've never encountered more anti-mental health, anti-love than I have in metal. And that needs to change big time. I remember getting hassled outside of a show in Vancouver because I was wearing a pink Nirvana shirt. Someone actually came up to me and said, hey man, I don't have a problem with Nirvana, but all my friends think you're fucking FAG. And I'm going, what the fuck, man? Like, how is that relevant to anything? And those are the kind of people that are a cancer to, not even to metal, but to everything. I believe that the way to exclude these people and make this music better and heal the world is to expel those people, to call those people out. I mean, we're in a really, really, really interesting time. And I think a lot of people are afraid of being canceled and things like that, or losing fan bases for standing out. And there's this, oh man, this comment just drives me fucking nuts. When people are like, keep politics out of metal. Keep politics out of my music. Everything you do is political. What you choose to buy, what you choose to wear, what you choose to support, it's all political. And if bands don't fucking step up and start saying, you fucking people are not allowed at our shows. This bullshit stigma is not allowed at our shows. It doesn't mean you have to come out and say, we're a band that wants to change the world. But you have to put your foot down and say, fuck these people and fuck that stigma. Otherwise, what the hell are we doing?
Before I let Roger go, I wanted to ask him one last question. We never give advice on High Notes because we believe that you can't give somebody advice without knowing their full story, and it's impossible for us to know what you're going through. But we do believe in the power of suggestion. And I'm sure as Roger gets back out on the road and his band begins to tour again, he will be approached by fans who have either heard this show or know his story already and want some guidance on how they can make changes in their life. And when that happens, this is what Roger will share with them.
I'd listen. I think listening is everything. I would just say, talk to me. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. I don't care. Just let me load my gear out and I'm there. If you want to private message me, I'm there to listen. I can't tell people how to recover, but I can say that it's possible. And the advice I would give is be patient with yourself, love yourself, because like RuPaul said, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anyone else? Right? Love yourself. I think that's a suggestion I can make. Love yourself, listen to yourself, and talk to people. Talk to people. I remember I was in Germany, and this individual had come to our show. He came up to me after and he said, "Thank you so much. Your music is really helping me right now." And I said, "Hey, man," I was still smoking cigarettes at the time. And I said, "Hey, let's have a smoke." And we went outside and we ended up talking till like 3 a.m. But he's a cop. And he was suffering. I don't want to tell his story just out of respect for his privacy. But he had said, after this show, I'm going to go to this specific location. He had a plan, which is terrifying. And he said, after the show, I was going to go there and take my life. And again, which is, like you said, James, highly important. Not telling people how to, but just giving advice. And I said, well, what is your family like? Do you have a partner? Have you talked to them? And he said, I have a wife. We've been married for years, but she doesn't know anything. And I remember saying to him, like, how can you suffer like that alone? Why doesn't your partner know? Like, if you had cancer, you would tell your partner. Having an addiction issue or a mental illness is a cancer. And you have to do therapy. You have to take your drugs. You have to do everything you can to stay alive.
Thinking back now on my conversation with Roger, it's clear that everyone out there needs to do two things a little bit more often. One is speaking their truth, and the other is learning to listen, and to just be there for the people that you care about, but strangers as well. Make yourself available to people who are in need, and you'll be surprised at what happens. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please seek help. The entire High Notes team is here, as are our friends at Season of Mist, and we're all rooting for you. We know you can get through this. As always, for High Notes, my name is James Shotwell. The show is brought to you by Holics.com and Season of Mist. High Notes is produced by Landon Defever, and our programming consultant is Miss Laura Haggard. The art for our show was made by Nick Ferran, and our theme song was produced by the band You, Me, and Everyone We Know. We have more episodes coming soon, and if you'd like to follow us on social media, please search High Notes Pod, that's High Notes POD, on Twitter and Instagram. We look forward to speaking with you again, and we wish you all the best in everything you do. Thanks for listening.